Good evening. We engage with people every day, most of whom we spend a great deal of time with. But how much do we really know about the people who we see practically every day? Let me ask you a question. How many of you feel like you know or are familiar with most staff and faculty members in the MBS community? That's exactly how I felt 6 months prior to this speech. And for me, that's pretty embarrassing. I mean, I've been a student at Nashoba for 3 years, and I couldn't even tell you the names of 40% of our school's faculty and staff. After realizing this, I knew I had to change. Despite my epiphany concerning the fact that I knew so little about the people around me, when Ms. Funk proposed the 20% time project, I was completely stumped. I thought of what I was going to do for the following 6 months completely unsuccessfully. Days passed and few ideas came to mind, all of which I vetoed for being too crafty or too labor-intensive. Weeks passed and I still had no plan. Until November 14th, 2014. My mom and I were driving in the car listening to National Public Radio, and more specifically, StoryCorps. For those of you who aren't familiar with StoryCorps, it's a radio-based program on which people share meaningful experiences, moments, and advice to be broadcasted once a week. That particular morning, we were listening to a teacher speaking about how he didn't feel connected with his students until one of his third graders asked him where he was from. It felt like a huge weight had fallen off his shoulders, and he could be a better teacher because he knew his students on a more personal level. Hearing this from my perspective as an 8th grader, I thought a student could benefit from asking these kinds of questions too. So I ran to school that Friday morning and immediately proposed my idea to Ms. Funk, whose response matched my enthusiasm. But she told me that I would still need to get it proved. Luckily it was, and I was off to a strong start. Well, 4 months later, I stood up and said, "Today's the day I'm going to start this project." Within 2 weeks, I was able to find over 15 staff and faculty members who wanted to help me out. Of them, I was able to find 10 who I could meet with. Ms. Zuckerman, Ms. Beal, Mr. Goldrick, Ms. Spurlock, Ms. Stanley, Mr. Bensquin, Ms. McCarthy, Ms. King, Ms. Stevens, and Ms. Jamal. After consulting with my classmates, I decided that the best question I could ask my interviewees would be to tell me about a meaningful experience in their life or advice that they would give to graduating 8th graders. My first interview was with Ms. Zuckerman, and to be honest, it was very different from what I was expecting, and I mean that in the best of ways. You wouldn't be surprised here that I didn't even know who Ms. Zuckerman was, or what she looked like, so when I went to find her, I had little success. 45 minutes after our scheduled meeting time, I turned around when I heard a woman saying, "Are you Katie? Because I'm Ms. Zuckerman." I grabbed my phone and followed her downstairs. Ever since this moment, I became extremely thankful that I had chosen to do this as my 20% time project, because the story Ms. Zuckerman told me that day, I will never forget. Here it is.
It was a smaller stock market crash, but big stock market crash. And with it went all of my parents' savings. I lost everything. And they were looking at not being able to pay for the next 3 years of my college. I was looking at having to drop out because I was already there, so I couldn't get that much money. I did not think I was going to be able to finish college. It was at Brown University. It had been my life's dream to go to that school. I'd gotten from middle school. And my parents just had no idea what they were going to do. And I had no idea what I was going to do. And one day, our neighbor, I have a little context, we lived in me. It changed how I think about people and human goodness. And just be really empowered by the idea of education and kindness.
I felt so honored that someone who didn't even know me told me about such a meaningful and literally life-changing experience. The following 9 interviews were equally as amazing and breathtaking as the first, and soon I had a list of advice created by the people I most admire and aspire to be like someday. I have a list that I will continue to use for the rest of my life and cherish deeply in my heart. But for me to keep this secret list all to myself wouldn't be fair, and that's why I'm going to put all of my collected stories together and keep them in the MBS School Library for everyone to listen to and learn from. Storytelling plays such a large role in the dynamic of everyday life, and for me to be able to share stories that may not have otherwise been heard is truly a special thing. These stories have changed my life and how I approach every day. I'd like to give a special thank you to the 10 people who have impacted me and soon will for many others. Thank you.